Good evening, everybody. I know this is kind of unexpected live stream here. I just wanted to wish everybody happy Independence Day, and if you're outside of the USA, hopefully you're just having a wonderful Thursday. And just wanted to take a minute to thank everybody for joining me on this holiday. We're going to do a Q&A today, talk about a few things, but also just wanted to get out of the way. I love America. I'm an American. I know for the international viewers, it's probably a little boring, and you guys are probably sick of hearing America. But for me, I wouldn't rather be any other place, especially even here in California, where our rights have been restricted and it's really expensive to live and all that other kind of stuff. But in America in general, it's great to know that I can say what I want and not have any kind of reprisal from the government. I can have my own belief system and not worry about the government or any kind of persecution. Right to a fair trial, right to just about everything, and live my life the way I want to live it, make my money the way I want to live it. The old experience of, or the old saying, liberty is absolute freedom restricted by the rights of others, and I think that's very true. Anyway, well, let's get on with the live stream. Looks like we got 13 people. I know it's the middle of the day, and I know a lot of people with YouTube, especially. I get a lot of comments say, well, by the way, the headset, this is purely because of the iPad I'm using. If I just talk, I have to like shout, and hopefully the audio quality is okay. So this just helps keep the quality a little bit more clear. Oh yeah, it wouldn't be a live stream without the cat. You say hi. This is Thumbelina. I didn't name her. Anyway, she's being annoying. So wanted to do a little live stream for you guys today. Talk about a few things. Yes, I was in the woods recently. I was up in the Sierras, and audio is clear. Good. So I released a couple videos, one about tree knocking, one that was a big, nice, long walk in the woods. I got one more I'm going to release. That was a walk on the Fire Road. If you guys have been following me since I've been doing field work up there and putting on the channel, we have many walks on this Fire Road. The Fire Road was Matt's big cat. Yeah, she's a little chunker. Yep. She's actually the skinny one. The other cat's bigger. I got a bunch of free cat food a couple months ago, and I've been giving it to them, and they're like really ballooned up. So, hey, Matt Squatch, love you, buddy. Hey, love you guys too. Glad you guys can join me. Like I said, I know I got a lot of subscribers, but I know people are recovering or getting ready or hanging out with family and probably don't have a lot of time to check out a live stream right now. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So the property that we go to in the Southern Sierras, which we go into Sequoia National Forest, not National Park, although it's, as the crow flies, pretty close to Sequoia National Park. But the way we get there is completely different than the way that you would take to Sequoia National Park. But this is in the National Forest section. There's some of the oldest trees in the world. Hey, man, there's a question. What creatures do you think walk during the witching hour in the woods? Okay, I'm going to talk. Oh, Spencer, thank you for donating $1. I appreciate it, or 99 cents. Really appreciate that. The witching hour. Yes, I actually have a little story about that. But anyway, so the thing I'll probably upload either Friday or Saturday is a walk on the Fire Road. Now, I know a lot of people are like, what's just you walking in the woods down the same Fire Road? But it's the place that I had my first encounter with which I believe is Sasquatch, where I was coyote hunting and I had a rock thrown at me. It's been well documented on his channel. And that road has changed so much over the years, from being very overgrown to rarely used, to heavily used and grazed out by cattle, to not being used by cattle and having lots of deer and other animals there. And this last winter, spring, like in April, we had like a 100-year storm here in California, and it was really bad. And it blew over a lot of trees. Because we went in January, and it looked like it always did. We went in April, and you couldn't even walk down the road. You had to crawl over all these trees. And to even get there. And then we went, and the Forest Service looked like they made new corrals for the cattle that grazed there, and it looked like they had taken out a lot of the fallen trees and cleared everything out. So every time we go up there, it has a different feel. And sometimes it feels like there are no Sasquatches around. Other times it feels very sinister. Sometimes we go down this road and you hear tons of birds and squirrels and everything else. And other times it's dead silent. I've been up there at night numerous times, and even like you go up at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and it feels calm and quiet, like you could just take a nap on the side of the road there, and you come back a few hours later, like 7, 8 at night, and it's dark out, and it has a completely different feel. So yeah, I'll be releasing a video on that. Nothing too exciting. I did have on the property itself that we stay at, I did set up a couple trail cameras. I kind of forgot about them, and we were about to leave. We were packing up the car, and I'm like, oh, trail camera. I should probably go get that. So I brought it home with me because there's another project, another area. I would really like to go set it up. A friend of a friend told me they're having a Bigfoot problem near Arrowhead, and these people aren't Bigfoot people, and it's coming around their property and looking in their windows and doing a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to get a hold of the people, and so I took my trail cameras down so in case I need to set them up there. But yeah, the trail cameras captured the neighbor's dogs, captured a couple deer, which is always good to see deer, number of birds and stuff like that. I think a coyote in one. Kind of the same old stuff. I mean, it's always nice to see critters. But, like we've discussed many times, the odds of getting a Bigfoot on a trail camera, it has been done. I think it is possible, but it's incredibly rare. I think they hear the camera. They know what trees look like. I don't think they're stupid. I think they go, what's that kind of fake looking camouflage thing strapped to a tree over there? That looks human. I better avoid that. And I'm sure they see the flash. They see the infrared light. Pretty sure that they know what's going on. But I think trail cameras are fun. It's one of those things, even if you just get environmental stuff like prey species and everything else. Oh yeah, Monster. Happy 4th. Happy Independence Day to you too. So yeah, I'll be releasing the rest of the film. When I go into woods, I try to get a lot of filming done. So hey Matt, you guys like cryptids? Read Urban Animal. Okay, I've never heard of it. So let's go back to some of the questions here. Do you think a large male Bigfoot could kill a large male lion? Yes, I do believe. I think they would be more prone to use sticks and everything else. Lions are very ferocious because I've studied a lot of big game hunting. Not that I'm a hunter, but I think it's kind of important when studying species, especially dangerous species, and how they operate and how to protect yourself, especially the big five in Africa, which is lion, Cape buffalo, leopard, elephant, and rhino. And lion and leopard being the actual carnivorous ones can be very dangerous. Of course, Cape buffalo, elephant, rhino, you need a very large gun, elephant gun, 416 RIB, 458 Win Mag, 458 Lot, 375, the huge calibers. Lions you can kill with smaller calibers because they're very thin-bodied. They don't have the big, thick bone structure and layers of fat that everything else has. But what makes lions so devastating is they're hugely strong and hugely powerful and have lots of claws and lots of teeth. The cat's over here bothering me again. So that's what you see me looking down here for. She seems to know when there's a live stream going on. Thumbelina. Yes. So yeah. So could a Bigfoot take out a lion? I do think so. I think it would be, the lion would leap up because lions are incredibly strong and have those long claws. Kind of like if you ever see a lion take on like a Cape buffalo, like a 2,000 or 3,000 pound animal, and they're just on their back and the claws are sinking in, and they're like a couple hundred, 300 or 400 pound lion like hanging onto the back with the claws. It'd be incredibly painful. But I don't think the Sasquatch is just going to stand there like a Cape buffalo and try to shrug them off. I think it's going to be picking that thing up, throwing it, picking up rocks, boulders, trees, twigs, pounding, pulling jaws apart, pulling everything apart. I think it would be no fun for the Sasquatch, but I definitely think it would win. And now we're talking about an African lion. But, Bigfoot's in a clan, 4 or 5 clans versus a pride of lions. Yeah, that's a much different story. If there's a big lone Sasquatch being chased by a whole pride, I don't think there's much less on this earth naturally that could take him out, as opposed to maybe some of the really, really huge herbivores that we've been. But that's all well documented. Do you think climate change in northern Canada has caused them to migrate south? Yeah, they probably caused them to migrate north, because one thing is, even though the desert regions and areas where maybe we're low on water and had really hot and really cold climate swings in the south, the reports are, if things are warming up, if the grizzly bears are able to go farther north and the polar bears are getting pushed out because grizzly bears are generalists as far as food, and polar bears are very specialist, which is one of the reasons why they're having a hard time. I think Sasquatch being very generalist and very intelligent, I think climate change would probably cause them. Short answer, yes. I do think they're going to migrate more. If they're having a hard time finding a food source in a certain area that they used to, I think they're very adaptable and they will find another food source. If the deer are moving around, if other prey species, elk, caribou, bison, whatever they happen to be hunting, black bear, whatever they're going to be eating, if they're moving around, they're going to follow. And I think if areas that typically did not have a lot of grass and grazing lands now suddenly do. So that's one thing about climate change. As much as it's affecting species in certain areas, a part of the earth are no longer green or have the water that they once did. Other parts are getting record-breaking water in other areas. So it's climate change. So some areas that, were doing well before aren't doing well now, but we have to remember in the flip coin, other areas that were notoriously very cold and damp are now very warm and damp and doing quite well. So do you believe there is Bigfoot in Greenland? Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I saw an article and then somebody sent it to me again. Whenever I find something interesting, it's always inedible. Somebody emails it to me, which is great. That there was an Arctic fox that made it all the way from was it Greenland is full of ice and Iceland is green. One of those, I think it was all the way in Europe somewhere. It was an Arctic fox that during the ice flow made it all the way over to Canada. And it was covering like a couple hundred miles a day. This little Arctic fox made it all the way over there. So when it comes to ice bridges and things being frozen over now, I think that's very, very cold. And, the abominable snowman, Wendigo, Yeti type stuff. I mean, could they survive? Sure. Could they migrate that way? Possibly. I just think they would have to be very clever with their food supply and very clever in how they were going to do. Because general Sasquatch, as we think of it, really isn't set up for the cold Arctic winters. I mean, I've heard reports of them in the snow and going through icy rivers and stuff and doing just fine. But the actual Arctic, though, in dead of winter, I just don't think they're set up for it. Now, could there be one, maybe a highly specialized species that, can go 30, 40, 50 below, like a polar bear can? Maybe. It wouldn't surprise me if they migrate, but I find it a little on the extreme end where only a few species are going to be able to do that. Melba Ketchum's Woodbooger Farm homesteading. Yeah, he's trying to branch out with the homesteading thing on there. Melba Ketchum results. Your thoughts? There's a lot of stuff that reported to me that she reportedly said that's very crazy and she's very out there and she's a wacko. And then I've also read a lot of stuff where she seems like a very smart lady. To be honest, I've heard a lot of Melba Ketchum stuff on both sides. And I think in some ways she got a bad rap. I think in some ways you hear a rumor and the internet has spread it. Her results kind of do make sense. It kind of goes along with the cover up. It goes along with people, there's more to these things than we realize. If they were a regular species, they would have been recognized a long time ago. Why is there a cover-up? Why is there a disinformation campaign? Why is there a push to keep Sasquatch as a joke, as a beef jerky ad, so to speak? And it kind of fits if you look at Melba Ketchum's results, that, they're part human and part something else not, with even with a DNA structure different than ours, similar but different at the same time. So one of these days I got to sit down and read her report. I got to go get both sides of the argument, watch the interviews that she said, because I've heard people say that she said a lot of crazy things, although I haven't seen it. So one of these days I got to do a full report on it. I know there's supposed to be some other DNA studies as well besides Melba Ketchum's. And there's just so much going on in the Bigfoot world and in my personal life and everything else that there's only so many hours in the day. And to be quite honest, even though I love the subject of Bigfoot and cryptozoology and Dogman, you also get burnout on it too. Just like you could love your job, but 40, 50 hours a week, you can only read and hear so much before you want to do something else. So it's something that's got to pique my interest, but it is something I've been wanting to do, is come to, because people ask me an official opinion on this stuff as opposed to just saying, well, I heard this and that, kind of a politician answer. What? My wife's over there and she gave me a funny look. She doesn't want to be on camera, so I'm not going to make her be on camera. She said she would hurt me, and I believe her. So, but she's a very pretty lady. She should be on camera. So she just said no. I think I said something that made her no, or she's listening to something, and I think it. Anyway, my wife's over there. Uh, leave her be. Yeah, if you know what's good for me, leave her be. Anyway, someone asked, "What's your opinion on reported Bigfoot Sasquatch clashes?" Well, I just made a series of videos about that a couple weeks ago, and I do think it's incredibly rare. I think black bears and grizzly bears avoid each other. Mountain lions and wolves avoid each other. Mountain lions and black bears avoid each other, and even real apex predators like very large, packs of wolves avoid a very large bear, even though they can steal a kill from a bear, or the bears can hold one large, very large bear can hold a pack of wolves off. I think they avoid each other. They both have very keen senses of smell that have been reported, very good eyesight and hearing. I think the dogman smells probably better than a Sasquatch sense of smell. I think they probably both have pretty good hearing. I think the eyesight on a Sasquatch is probably better than a dogman's because apes generally have better vision than, and humans included, than dogs. But we don't know enough about these bizarre creatures people are saying to really say one way or another. But I think it happens. I think sometimes they're in a narrow canyon. I think sometimes it's a territorial dispute, or one steals a kill from another, or a dogman are harassing a young Bigfoot out on their own. Well, back to work. Got to finish getting ready for Bigfoot Odyssey. Yeah, I was supposed to be a guest with them last week, and I had some family stuff to take care of, and we wanted to get a early start on our trip, so I couldn't go on Bigfoot Odyssey. But they're good guys. Have fun as a guest appearance on there. I was supposed to go on there. Happy 4th, everyone. Goodbye, Rick. Have fun. Okay, who's on there? Oh, hi, Aaron Noel. David Quinn, hello. Agent Gandalf the White, funny name. Matt Squatch, do you think we will never found a body as a form of Bigfoot believer? I've heard them before in the woods. Oh, they're coming. Oh, Rick, they're coming to visit you. Wow. Okay. Well, hopefully they're having fun on your farm down there. They seem like good guys. I might actually have to watch that one if I'm not too busy later. I think many bodies have been shot over the years by hunters, people out farming, people thinking it was somebody in their yard in the middle of the night. And I think people have either disposed of the body themselves or buried them and realized how human they are and realized they might go to jail for homicide. There's a bunch of stories of that. And they went, uh-oh, I shot something. This is not an ape. This is very close to a human. I also do think that a number of people have shot them and reported it, and authorities have taken the bodies, whoever that authority might be, different jurisdictions, and said, nope, you shot a bear, don't talk about it. And I do think the government has had programs to take some for their own research, and I think they fully have a full dossier of exactly what these things are, to be quite frank. Do you think the fireworks bother them? I think they've been around long enough that they know what they are. Possibly we could allow Mrs. Matsquatch to introduce herself if we receive $100 in donations. Just an idea. Hey, they said if they donate $100, can they see they want to meet Mrs. Matsquatch? She says no, not for $100. Honey, that buys a lot of steak and beer. I mean, research funds. Now, great. Now she's leaving the room completely because she doesn't trust me. Good job, guys. You drove her away. Do you think fireworks bother them today? I think with gunshots and everything else, I think they know what's going on. I think they're a lot like anything else. They're like, yeah, everybody's out with guns and fireworks and beers and everything else. We're gonna kind of lay low. They might actually attract them. They might actually, I'm sure they're peeking through the bushes and watching from hillsides as the big ones go off. I'm sure they're from a distance just as curious as we are. They're probably upset because it probably ruins their hunting tonight. But they're pretty old creatures, and I'm sure they've seen them every year. And you know how it is a week before 4th of July. You hear ones and twos all week long. So I'm sure that they have a. I'm sure that they're used to it. Do you think a Gugwe Type 3 is afraid of a Wendigo Type 4? I think that would be like a black bear, a very large male black bear, and a mountain lion. I think they would probably have very healthy respect and stay away from each other. I think I don't know. The Gugwees seem pretty dang awful. Where the Wendigos seem like a carnivorous Bigfoot, scary in their own right. The Gugwees just seem like they're straight out of hell to me. I'm sure they avoid each other, and yeah, it's yeah, it's two big giant creatures. I doubt one fears more than the other. But yeah, what else do we have? Matt, thank you for your videos. I'm in the UK, so no chance of seeing one. You should check out Beast of Britain. People do have Bigfoot reports in England all the time in a lot of the rural areas, which I think um, might go more to the extra dimensional or interdimensional theories. But check out Beast of Britain. He does a whole. I was actually guesting his show talking about British Bigfoot, and there are a lot of people seeing him over there, as unlikely as it would be. Okay. Would you say that Harry and the Hendersons was based on a real events that we know nothing about? I mean, it very well could be. It's kind of an interesting story where you hit a Bigfoot and you think you got the find of a century. You strap it to your car and you drive it home, and realize it's not dead. And I mean, Bigfoot has been shown to have great compassion in some encounters, and they've been shown to be very violent in other encounters. I think it's just a clever story because the whole story takes place in the Pacific Northwest. I think it's one of those like. I don't know if the movie is direct. It's a good movie. The Harry and Anderson is a lot of fun anyway. The great creature effects. It's a great movie, one of the classics. A lot of fun. John Lithgow is amazing. He's always funny. So as a movie, it's just a fun movie. Is it disinformation to try to say that, oh no, they don't eat meat and they're vegetarians and they're the gentle forest giants? It very well could be. I think at some levels it's a much easier sell. The misunderstood creatures. So if somebody sees Bigfoot in a popular culture, they think, oh, there's nothing to worry about. You're secure. You're fine. Yeah, but Harry and the Hendersons is a real fun movie. Is it based on real events? I don't know. Plenty of people have hit him with cars and probably drug bodies in. So I can't tell you. Have you heard the song, the one that started the legend about Dogman? Yeah, I have. It's been a number of years, but I remember it. Matt, have you ever heard of a Bigfoot sighting in Brazil? I've been in 2008 National Park, Sierra de Capivara in central Brazil. Heard about sightings. Yes, all through South America they have lots of sightings of Bigfoot-like creatures. There's a lot of local names and legends for them down there. A lot of other cryptid creatures too. There's so many, like thousands of miles of forest and jungles and grasslands and everything else. I mean, I'm sure they're down there. They've had a lot of sightings over the years. Let's say we're up to 49 people. Cool. Do you think Sasquatch and Dogman are connected? Maybe. I think the Sasquatch as a species is much older than Dogman. I personally have no proof of this. I personally believe that Dogman was engineered long ago by some ancient civilization or something else, and I think Bigfoot goes back to very early pre-human times, where I think Dogman was a creation, an abomination, so to speak. And they're kind of a yin and yang. They're kind of brute force and intelligence versus, it's kind of like mind and brawn versus teeth and brawn, intelligence versus speed, and they're both very intelligent. Anyway, I married a beautiful size 2, but 40 years later she turned into a Sasquatch. Yeah, that happens. Always look at the mother-in-law. If you look at your mother-in-law, that's a really good indicator of what. Not always. Some people don't look anything like their parents, but it's a really good indicator. Look at the older sisters, especially if you got one that's got like a 10 or 15-year-old, 10 or 15-year older sister or sibling, aunts and uncles too. You can really get a good feel for what you're in for, and it's just attitude and exercise, ability to eat right. For me, the big thing is, oh man, I'm really getting fat. Time to hit the gym. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have another beer. Okay, the ability to want to take care of themselves as opposed to just let everything go, and I think that's really important. Okay, boy, you're getting a lot of questions here. Matt, can you comment on the theory that Bigfoot crossed between man and apes? Yes, I'm going to do a video on this. It's one that comes up every so often. Are man and Bigfoot related? Scientifically, they would appear to be so, even if we look at Gigantopithecus and all the different hominid species that came before us. Are we close enough to interbreed with them? I don't know. That's hard to say. Chimpanzees, who we share with 98% of our DNA with, we cannot technically breed with and make a viable offspring. But then again, physically, just looking at a chimpanzee and a human, there's quite a bit of difference. So, and there's a lot of reports of Bigfoot abducting people, and we all, dime store novel, supermarket tabloid, Bigfoot is the father of my children, and all that kind of crazy stuff. So, does Bigfoot have the need to mate? Could they find female women attractive? Now, if you find female Sasquatch attractive, that's something else entirely we're not going to talk about. But I could definitely see a male Bigfoot finding females attractive of our species. And so could they interbreed? Possibly. Could they attempt to at the very least? I would say so. Could they make a viable, could they produce an offspring? Maybe. Could they be close enough to produce an offspring that is then themselves fertile? Possibly. I know polar bears and grizzly bears crossbreed, and I know other species have been known to do it. Lions and tigers and stuff like that can crossbreed, ligers and that kind of thing. It's very possible. Like I said, I never really finished college and don't have a biology degree, or do I have a degree in the great ape species and primatology? But it's something I can look into, and I think it would be worth talking about in a video. Kind of a no-nonsense approach. There's a lot of jokes there, like I said, when talking about the Sasquatch human interbreeding type thing. But yeah, I think it's definitely possible, and some of the different types. Some of the different types that look a lot more human. Some of the different types are a lot smaller in certain areas. Some of the bigger types get huge. Do you believe in lizard people, Matt Squatch? I do. I think they're aliens. I think there's deep underground bases and things that you don't want to know about. Crossing over to the UFO part of it. Sorry, my nose is itching. Cat hair, I think, got up my nose there. That's what I get for bringing a cat on a live stream. Just water today, folks. But you do believe in lizard people? I think absolutely. Do I think they're like a cryptid species? I think they're more like an alien species. I think that's what people are saying. Okay, let's see here. Let's go back. Spencer's question. I don't remember. You're gonna have. You got to remember they're coming at me really fast, so you might have to restate a question, or if you guys donate in a super chat, your question will be pushed to the top. I was hammock camping a few years ago in the Highlands of Scotland, and about 1 a.m. was terrified by an almighty scream behind my camp. The thing was standing about 5 meters from me. Wow, that's scary. It's a huge intake between each scream. Yeah, you got to think the lung capacity on a Sasquatch. It's just got to be like volumes, which is one of the reasons why I think they're so loud. I didn't see it. I was too scared to shine my torch at it. Yeah, I mean, people report them. People do report them all the time in England, which, I think lends to the extra dimensional theory or something else is going on with these creatures. I mean, could they survive hidden deep in, the woods and forest of England and Scotland and Ireland and the British Isles, as they say? Possibly, but I think there's something else. Matt, what's the tree bent over to create an art? What's that mean? I think, the stick structures and tree things, I think there's a bunch of different reasons. I think sometimes they're a dominance display. Look how thick this 4-inch tree is that I bent over. Sometimes I think they're territory markings. Sometimes I think they do it to bend to point towards water or towards a settlement. Or I've seen it on one stick structure on the other side of a road and one breaking that way and another one, like the two breaks were pointing one way going up a road, and then the other side of the road, two breaks going up the hill or a break going down the hill. And I think sometimes it's a barrier marker, like, hey, this road is a barrier between two tribes or two clans, or it could mean water this way. It could be a subtle hint to humans that, hey, wow, these are something really big up here. I think sometimes they do it to mess with us too. Like, you deep in the woods, sometimes you'll find rocks and twigs bent like it's a fire ring, but no one had a fire there. You see, like, a circle of rocks, big rocks put around, and then you'll see like a few branches put in there, and you're like, it looked like somebody wanted to start a fire, and it'll look old and dusty and dirty and washed out. And I think that's maybe Sasquatch screwing with us sometimes. Maybe they're imitating a camp, or they set up a fake camp. There's all sorts of reports of camps and people finding camping gear set up in an odd way in the middle of the woods, but no evidence anybody actually camping. And I think that's the Sasquatch board, or they'll set up a camp, maybe wanting to lure a human in. While you're over there going, this is odd. Wow, what is this hat doing? This looks like somebody's camp, but there's no evidence of actual camping. Meanwhile, they're looking at you from the bushes, maybe even in a trap kind of a thing. So people find strange things in the woods, strange camps and strange stick structures and imitating things. Sometimes I think they do it to attract humans to get us to come in, either just screwing with us or out of their boredom to imitate us, or it could be some kind of an ambush. So be careful out there. Do you think they can use stick structures like platforms or perched unsuspecting prey? Yeah, possibly. I mean, they're pretty big creatures, and I have seen blinds, especially on edges of property, just on the other side of a fence line or something, where you just see all this brush just pushed into a huge pile and kind of concave on the inside. And it looks like somebody would do a hunting blind for deer, but like 5 times bigger than a human. I think they do that stuff. I think they work on it slowly as night. And as trees grow thicker, they slowly add to it so they can come right up to the edge of a property, see everything, and be hidden. Yeah, so I think hunting blinds, I think they use it for all sorts of things. They're the master of their environment, and I think that's what separates animals from true intelligence is you can live in your environment, but you can manipulate your environment, and I think they definitely do it. So, it's okay. Thoughts on Bigfoot's potential lung capacity, ability to hold breath, burrowing subterranean caves? Yeah, I think with the huge lung capacity for their howls and everything else and just being a giant creature, I'm sure they could probably also regulate their heart rate. I mean, enormous heart, too. That they could dive. There's lots of reports of them going in the water and not coming back out and submerging under lakes, and people finding underwater entrances to lakes and caverns and things. There's all sorts of stuff like that. Happy Fort, did you feel the quake today? Yes, I did. I was sitting in a recliner, and it's got kind of a rock back and forth recliner, and it starts rocking, and the chandelier above me starts rocking back and forth, and I'm looking over, and I'm like, hey, honey, there's an earthquake. My wife's like, there is? I'm like, yeah, there's an earthquake. 6.8 magnitude earthquake. I mean, people have hurt. Some parts of the country have hurricanes, some parts have tornadoes, some parts have blizzards. We don't have any of that. We have earthquakes. So that's our deal. Okay, go back to the question. Do you believe in 28-foot and taller Bigfoots walking around like some claim on the East Coast? I do, but I don't think they're Bigfoots. I think they're a mountain giant species, like the ancient biblical giants. I think very much in the deepest parts of the earth and the deepest parts of the remote woods, in very deep caves and cavern systems, very hidden things lurk, very dangerous ancient things that even Bigfoot's fear and Dogman's fear. And especially in Montana, Alaska, Canada, I think there are giants. People see them, people report them. You know, when there's a rock the size of a basketball thrown at you and it passes by your head and you could barely lift that rock, that sounds like a Bigfoot. When a boulder the size of a Volkswagen Beetle gets placed on top of your truck or your house, that's not a Bigfoot. That's not even a team of Bigfoots. That's something else. And I do think they exist. Let's scroll through. If you see my hand here, that's because the camera's next to where I scroll for the pictures, or scroll for the comments. What is that a Dogman has become in recent popular in years? I mean, Sasquatch probably holds the number 1 spot, but Dogman is definitely a big player in the cryptid world. Yeah, and I don't want to say that they're completely supernatural or a figment of our imagination or something to do with hauntings. But I do think that certain creatures cross the border between cryptozoological and get into paranormal. And like a lot of demonic names and ghosts and paranormal entities, so to speak, if you talk about them and you dream about them and you research about them, you give certain creatures more power. And I think there's a little more acceptance in our brain, so when we do see something, we actually do register it. So I do think there's a different psychological, collective components that gives these things energy, if that kind of makes sense. I don't know what it is. I can't put my exact finger on it. I can't quantify that for you. But I do think being a popular culture, being scary, you know, everybody as a little kid saw something as werewolves, and then growing up with all these stories, and then you actually see something and you realize people are seeing the real counterpart to werewolves, dogmen. And I think that's quite fascinating, and I do think talking about it gives a subject more power. If it gives these creatures direct power, that's another story. But hey, anyway, she was bothering me. Uh, she's over there. She'll leave me alone all day. The second I try to do something, she's like, "Meow, pay attention." Um, okay, let's go back. Wow, a lot of questions here. Uh, do you think you could ever? Do you think you could ever think a Bigfoot is cute if she was the last female on Earth? Never say never. I don't know. I think you're in trouble if she finds you cute and you're out in the woods. Do you think how close to suburban urban settings do you think Sasquatch is willing to go foraging hunting? I think they go fairly large towns and cities. I think they walk in at night because even very big cities in the Pacific Northwest and even like in Arizona and Montana and other places, very like the biggest cities in the states have. Well, like Prescott's a very good example. Downtown, Old Town Prescott, very big city, especially for Arizona, lots of people, but they have these little rivers and creeks that run through town, and these trails that go all the way out to all the way out of town and all the way through the center of town. And I remember looking at that. I'm walking through, having lunch at a diner, looking at the antique stores in downtown Prescott, and it's pretty bare the rest of the year. But when there's like springtime right now, it's this huge canopy of these creeks and trails going right through the center of town. And they go, and I pulled it up on Google Maps and followed it all the way out to the hills where nobody lives. And I'm like, yeah, they could cut right through town to find this. I'm sure they go find dumpsters and livestock. People have chicken in their animals. I lived in Prescott for 2 years, or Prescott, as they say there. I got in trouble because I called it Prescott. It's Prescott. Um, Prescott's one of my favorite places. I actually would love to retire there, especially for somebody who's pro Second Amendment, especially for somebody who likes low taxes and cheap gas and small town feel. I really like Prescott a lot. Anyway, that's either here nor there. But yeah, there's a lot of towns like that, and I've had people contact me saying that very big cities in the Pacific Northwest that they've caught on thermal and seen Sasquatches going very deep into town and into parks and into other places. And people, everybody's entitled to their opinion. And if it's a well thought out argument, I will definitely listen to it. But when I make a video about, hey, I'm going to the woods and, oh, you're never going to catch never going to catch Bigfoot like that. Or, hey, you're wearing tennis shoes and not hiking boots. You don't even have a pack on. And I'm like, look, I can drive right to a trail, especially here in California, walk for 10 minutes out in that trail, and I am literally in the flipping middle of nowhere. And there's lots of little towns and little kind of villages and roadside attractions and rural properties that have them come right up to the house. So this conception that you have to get in really far remote areas to find Bigfoot, yeah, maybe in some areas. And I know it's like bears in a very far remote areas of the woods. Lots of bears live, but also very close to people and towns and properties. In fact, you could make a pretty good argument that they probably do better next to, cultivated agriculture and corn and beans and everything else, and cultivated livestock and chickens and pigs and everything else. Just like a lot of animal species do really well next to farmlands. Why would Sasquatch be any different? So this notion that you have to get really far deep out there, sometimes you do. Some areas, are they out there potentially? But I also think that they could, go 2 or 3 ridges over that would be impossible, almost impossible for you to hike. I think is no problem for them, and I think that they know that. So I think that they, some big giant 1,000-foot ridge, a little mini mountain that's next to you that would, you'd have to bushwhack through the jungle and crawl through to get through, and it'd take you half a day to climb over. I think they can go up and down that in like 5 or 10 minutes. So what's a barrier to you isn't to them. And I think they also do use roads and game trails and everything else. So the notion that you have to go very deep in the woods, I don't necessarily buy that, because there's lots of encounters near bigger towns, bigger cities, and right on the edge of them. So, yes. Let's look through some of the other ones here. Thank you for your answer. Lots of cicadas. Yes, I remember that. I remember driving through Prescott the first time I went through there, and I'm like, what is that sound? I thought it was my car. And I thought it was my car, like, oh, crap, something's wrong with my car. Transmission's going out or some kind of buzzing, and I get out, and it's the trees making all the noise. Todd Standing, a fake or no? I'll put it to you my politically correct answer for Todd Standing. I think he's done some good research. I think some of the stuff he's caught on film is real, and I think he has had real contact with Sasquatch. As far as his photo evidence, I'm not entirely convinced. Enough said. Let's go back. Missoula, Montana is filthy with Sasquatch. Just ask Duke. Yes, I've been a guest on his show numerous times, and Missoula is a wonderful place. I love all of Montana. Montana is an awesome state. Gets a little cold for my blood. Let's scroll through here. A huge shiver went through my body in a direction and screamed over my right shoulder and my feet. Cold shiver, horrible. Ooh, that sounds terrible. Like I said, Ryan, I live in Louisiana, and Dogman stories are all over, and I know I can't pay me to fish or hunt in certain areas after certain hours. I believe that. Central Ohio, they're all over the place. Yeah, actually, that's one thing. That's the other thing that struck me about Todd Standing is I was watching a live stream of his 4 or 5 months ago. He has a big following, lots of supporters, and I get it. He's a real big name. Reported clear evidence of Bigfoot that I said I'm not convinced of. But someone asked him, "Hey, Todd, what do you think of Bigfoot in Ohio?" And he looks around and he goes, "Bigfoot in Ohio? No, I've never heard of Bigfoot in Ohio." And I'm like, that's like arguably like second or third like busiest state in all of the United States for Bigfoot activity. In fact, if you look at total reports, it's right up there with Oregon, Washington, East Texas. Like it's in my top 5. And Ohio also has reported Gugwees. They also have dogmen. They also have all sorts of different creatures going on. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, you might know your area really well, Todd, but I don't think you know general Bigfoot lore because Ohio is loaded with them from what I've heard. Matt, I mistyped my comment saying if you've ever seen a Sasquatch, but it made it sound rude, but you replied anyway, which was cool. But could you briefly describe your sightings? Eyeshine. Well, the 2 main reports that I had that I talked about on Sasquatch Chronicles, one in the Sierra Nevadas where I had a rock thrown at me and I was followed out, and the other one in the Idlewild Mountain Range where something thumped on the side of the house and growled and I heard big footsteps. I did not see anything. There was one night, it's documented on his channel, where something came right up to the porch. A friend of mine heard a large owl noise and filmed a little bit of it, didn't catch much. We were definitely visited by something that night. I could hear something walking through the bushes. My friend Brian and I went outside, got on the road in front of the house, and we got hit with a wall of fear of like, don't go any farther. And I had a 500 lumen Surefire flashlight on my rifle, and I still didn't feel like going any farther. And I shined it 70, 80 yards away down to the fence line and saw eyes right like far above the fence line, like 8 or 9 feet in the air. And I'm looking at that eye shine, and I could see like one eye, then no eyes, and then kind of come back like it was looking away. And it was staring at me, and I could just see this ever so dark, faint outline. It looked like a head and a shoulders and eye shine. It was kind of a yellowish green looking back at me, for the record. And it was right at the porch. We were very creeped out, and I think we were visited by a Sasquatch that night. So yeah, that's about as close. I think I've been close to him other times too. I've been out in the woods and I've gotten creeped out feelings, and I've heard snaps and knocks. I'm sure I've been within feet of him and had no idea and went doo-doo-doo and walked right by him. But yeah, that's the closest I've seen his eye shine and outline at night. And I have not once seen one clear daylight, which some people say makes me unqualified. And I say I'm completely unqualified, but I love talking about Sasquatch, and I share my thoughts and ideas with you guys. I live on the other side of the mountain from Prescott. I'm in Cottonwood. Oh, that's also a nice area. I also like Lynx Lake. Prescott's such a neat place because like one end of town, you're like in high desert. Then you drive for 10 minutes and you're like in pine trees. It's very cool. You have such a mix there. Good day, everyone. Glad to see Matt live. Thank you. Oh, we're up to 62 people. That's the other thing, too. I have 21,000 subscribers now. Very grateful for all of them. And I have so many people commenting lately, hey, I saw you had a live stream. I hit the notification bell, but I I wasn't alerted, or hey, I don't get alerted to your videos, or hey, you put out a new video and no one told me. That's not me. It's YouTube. The only thing I've heard to recommend is um, click the bell notification and click it again. Subscribe, resubscribe, click that bell notification. There's notification settings for what you want to get notified, but subscribe, click the bell, and you can pull it up right next to the video there and look at if you're the notification button. A lot of people, a lot of channels have had that been reported with YouTube. It's YouTube, not me, because why would I not want people to be notified? So, Matt, who's your favorite pro wrestler? That's funny. I used to watch wrestling when I was a kid in the late 90s to the very early 2000s in the Steve Austin, McMahon Wars, WWF, way back when it was WWF, the Attitude Era, The Undertaker, Steve Austin, Rock when he was a bad guy, Mick Foley. That's so hard to pick a favorite. But from that era, that was kind of my era of wrestling. Um, Austin probably is up there. I can't pick one, but just all the classic guys. Chris Jericho is amazing too back then. He still is. And every now and then I hear something about a wrestler or listen to somebody talk about it, and I think it's kind of fun. But I mean, it's something I outgrew a long time ago. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for wrestlers. They go out there and they beat the crap out of each other. And yeah, it might be scripted, or the outcome is scripted, or they work together to put on a show. It's why it's sport entertainment. But yeah, that was my era, and I always had a lot of fun with it. Every once in a blue moon, I'll find wrestling on TV, and I'll watch 15 or 20 minutes of it and get a little nostalgic. It's cool, but I don't really watch wrestling anymore. But I'd say back in the day, Undertaker was a strong favorite for me, along with Austin. Mick Foley, too, of course. Let's see. You feel the earthquake where you guys were? Yes, we felt it. We talked about it earlier, not to blow you off, but yes, we felt it. Wasn't too bad. Has anyone seen the Missing 411 documentaries? The dude just released a new one, Mad Disappearance in the Woods. Yes, I've seen the first one. I have it on DVD. I have not seen the Missing Hunting one. It's on my list. I want to do a review about it. Strange thing enough, David Pilates at Can-Am Missing blocked me on Twitter. I have a Twitter account, and all I really do is like Bigfoot stuff. I don't get political. And I went to go, like, hey, I haven't seen any tweets from him for a long time. And I said, Can-Am Missing had blocked you. I don't know. Maybe he feels I'm profiting off, because I talk about Missing 411 from time to time, and I made videos about different theories. And I don't think I've ever put words in his mouth, or maybe he just thought I was, and I know he's had a lot of problems on YouTube of people claiming to be him, so maybe it was just an honest mistake and he thought I was one of the people trying to rip him off, or he's just directly targeting me. I doubt that. I don't know. But I found that he blocked me on there. Yeah, so I have no idea. He hasn't filed any copyright claims or anything, so I have no idea what's going on. Hey, Dixie Cryptid. Cool. Hey, guys. Hey, Matt. Were you raised in a home where adults believed in Bigfoot and other cryptids? Well, yes and no. My dad, very hard-headed. It's all bullshit. Those people are crazy. My mom, having a degree in cryptozoology and going to University of Idaho and anthropology, having her degree in anthropology and all that kind of stuff, she was very open to the idea, and she's very much into Bigfoot. And my dad was always hard-nosed, big no. It's funny now that he's retired and lives in the woods, he's a lot more open to it, and he's watched a lot of my videos, and I think he's a lot more perceptive to it now. I don't know if he's a believer, but I think if he saw one, I think he would be less dumbfounded than he would have a few years ago. So I think I've opened my dad's mind a little bit to that one. Hello, Matt Squatch. Hello, Smedley Do Right. Great question, Dixie. Did you hear or find anything on your last outing? Actually, no. When we went up in April, we found strange footprints. We found indentations in the ground. We got creeped out feelings. Stuff was like, I think I heard stuff moving around at night. We heard where the fence was trampled down, but there was no footprints. Logs and piping was thrown around. Logs thrown around. We documented a lot of that, and this time, I don't know if, I think maybe it's gotten warmer, so they moved higher up, or something. But this time it was pretty dead. We did have one creepy experience where we had a few beers and played cards because we went up Friday night, and we got up kind of late. Not late, but we cooked dinner and hung out on the porch, listened to a little music, played some cards. Went to bed, and in the middle of the night, I swear I saw some small little 4-foot thing run through the house. And I didn't hear anything, but I swear just corner of my eye go across as I'm laying there in a futon in a living room. And then I had this really weird, like, I thought it was a bad dream, of this little demon white-faced thing go bah in my face, and it went bah in the middle of the night, and I went, oh crap, that was some kind of a weird dream, and it was 3 a.m. And then my buddy Brian, who was with me, was like, hey, I swear something was running through here last night. So was it a haunting? I don't know. Something weird happened, but as far as Bigfoot, I don't know. Okay, Bill Bandani, thank you very much. No disrespect attempting at Mr. Masquatch introductions, but here's my dues. Always enjoy. Thank you very much, Bill. If you have a special question you'd like to ask me, I'll get to yours first. But thank you for the donation. Greatly appreciated. I was doing really well earlier this year, but the last 2 or 3 months, basically I've had a lot of family stuff going on. A close family member is very sick, and also raising my daughter and a lot of other stuff. I haven't been able to put out the content I want. I'm trying to pick up back the pace. So the last March, April, May, I probably made about a third of what I was making all the other months, which is enough for me to get by. I'd like to think I'm pretty good with my money, but the donations really help because I think people are back to work and there hasn't been the holidays and everything else going on. Like over the holidays, I get a lot of views. I think a lot of people are stuck inside and at home. Now the weather's nice. People are at work. School was in full swing. I think people just weren't watching as many videos, and I wasn't putting out as much, which Google algorithm promotes quantity over quality. So you could put out one or two, you could put out one awesome video a week and not get the views if you put out 3 or 4 mediocre videos a week. So yeah, my money's been a little down on YouTube, so I very much appreciate that, so I can keep bringing you guys more content. Bigfoot Evans, hey Matt, love your videos. I spoke with David Pilates a few times. Interesting person. You know, when I did talks for MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, and the LA and Orange County chapters, and I have a lot of contact with UFO people, and I love talking to UFO people because Bigfoot and Dogman is like nothing to those guys because they deal with so much weird stuff. They're so much more open to it, so it's kind of cool. Hold on here. Oh, I had to stretch for a second. Anyway, oh yeah, American flag t-shirt. So yeah, and they've all said that they've seen David. They've had them come talk at their conferences the same way I did, which I feel honored to talk to the same group of people that he did. And they say he's a very approachable guy, very honest. A few people have said that he kind of holds back and he's kind of, you know, he'll dodge certain questions, especially when you get into the subject of what you think is going on with the whole deal of the disappearances. And, you know, part of it is I get it. He doesn't want to know, or he says the truth is too fantastical, or there's multiple subjects. You can't just point at one thing. He doesn't like it when people say Bigfoot is a culprit, which I think out of 100 cases, maybe, 10 or 12 is Bigfoot taking people. I don't think it's the main majority of people disappearing. So he doesn't like it when you come to a conclusion or say that he has a conclusion or put words in his mouth. But yeah, everybody said he was a nice guy, very approachable, very believable, which I think he is. Some people say he's a disinformation guy, and I can neither confirm nor deny that. I have no idea about David Pilates, but I think he is doing good work. I think he is bringing a lot of these cases to light. Whether his ultimate motivations is to string everything out in a series of books and make a lot of money, or if he actually really does care, which I think he does, or if he honestly doesn't know, or if his life has just taken him on a very interesting path and he shares that with us. So I think David Pilates is a very, very interesting figure because he was a Bigfoot researcher and then he got into a lot of this other stuff. So anyway, Ryan Tremblay, you're a big fan. You hit me on Twitter all the time. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure to hear from me, Matt. Love your content. Thanks, buddy. Good to hear from you all the time. You're one of the guys that's been around for a long time, and I appreciate the super chat donations. If you have a question, Ryan, let me know. Some people get carried away protecting their brand. Someone probably told the guy, you blame Sasquatch for anything. He didn't bother to check and block. That very well is probably what happened. I very clearly talked about missing 401, and I give that exact answer that I feel most of the time Sasquatch is not a suspect. Some of the reports of the kid went around a rock and disappeared, and they found his shoes and clothes folded up, and then they found a body up on a very rocky hillside, and there's no way they could have gone up there. To me, that sounds like something that had hands, that had intelligence, that could be very stealthy in the woods. And to me, certain cases like that point to a Bigfoot. And other cases he talks about, in fact, the vast majority of them, Bigfoot, maybe a suspect but doesn't fit. I know Dogman has been implicated in some of his disappearances. And I think it's just the wild, wild west of wilderness weirdo stuff going on out in the woods. And I think that's what's taking people, if that kind of helps answer your questions. But I think you pretty much hit me on the head. I think he saw, this guy's blaming. He either thought I was one of the YouTube channels that reposts his like coast to coast AM visits without anybody's permission. So he said, YouTuber talking about me, he must be bad, and blocked me. Or he says, he's using my research to blame Bigfoot. And when I said, well, that's partially right, very small percentage I think could be Bigfoot. So anyway, Matt Squatch presents, how solid do you believe the theories of Sasquatch holding demonic Sasquatch and Dogman holding demonic origins? Any truth to that, or do you believe it's far-fetched? I'm open to everything, and it depends on what you mean demonic. If you mean something biblical from like, the Sodom, Gomorrah, land of Canaanites, the unwashed, the dirty people, descendants of Cain, could it be something like that? Or do you mean straight up demonic forces and demons, the devil, lending some of his craft to some ancient civilization to make these creatures? I mean, none of it is off the table. And people point to the Nephilim, although when you look at descriptions of the Nephilim, they kind of don't line up with Bigfoot. So do they have some kind of an ancient biblical past, some kind of an ancient civilization past, something that we might call evil or demonic, or some kind of an ancient force working against humans and have that kind of an origin? I think it's entirely possible. It might be entirely the reason why there's a cover-up going on. Anyway, let's see what else we got here. Staircases in the woods real. Not that I've ever seen. Far as you would assume, a face-eater Bigfoot's gugwe extend beyond the Mississippi. Yeah, I've heard people tell me in the state of Mississippi, a lot farther south, or a lot pretty far away in that state from the actual Mississippi River, seen them. Feels like there's a rise in gugwe reports, to be honest. It used to be very narrow, very rare band, and they seem to kind of expanding. I think climate change. I think human sprawl, more people in the woods, and just a general rise in paranormal weird stuff going on. More people are seeing them. I did a video on it a while back. So yeah, I think their range maybe is expanding. I think groups are maybe doing better, and I think they have a lot more to eat. Gugwees are the most intriguing. Thanks. Yeah, they're very, if you look at the Sasquatch family tree of having ones that look really human and ones that look like a big chimp and ones that look more orangutan-like and ones that look like Patty, like a big giant human ape thing, to have one with a snout like a baboon makes sense, but doesn't. As you look at baboons and mandrill species and stuff like that of apes, and they have those big gnarly fangs, and the snout like a dog, and then the whole Dogman thing. Some people that think that Dogman is a type of Bigfoot with a snout. I tend to disagree with that theory. I think it's two separate things going on. And then I think in Dogman in general, to get off on another tangent here, I think there's a demonic force that takes the form of a werewolf or a Dogman, which hence the reason why when people shoot at him, nothing happens, or they see him disappear, or they run right by him and don't even acknowledge the human. And then I think there's a real flesh and blood creature that runs in packs and eats and poops and sleeps and breeds. So anyway, that's a brief synopsis. Let's see if we got any other pictures here. I believe that started as a creepypasta on 4chan. Video game, Staircases in the Woods. Yeah, I heard something about Staircases in the Woods. I don't go on 4chan. I know what creepypastas are. There's lots of good narratives. And here's the thing. Creepypastas are like modern day legends, modern day lore, modern day folk stories, where there might be a tiny bit of tinge of truth or a witness to something, like the goat man sightings and deer man sightings and strange cryptid creatures people see. And then they get, people are like, well, here's the concept of a deer man. Once in a blue moon in very strange places, people report an upright walking deer, kind of like a Wendigo, not the Wendigo Bigfoot, but the Native American demon Wendigo thing. and then they make a whole story based on that. So I think with creepypastas, that's kind of the whole idea. Is they have some very 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 loosely um, um, encounter, and then they expand on that. Have you heard of the U-boat 84 incident? Then this sounds familiar, but I don't know exactly what that is. I'd love to. MattSquatchPresents at gmail.com. Send me an article or a video on it. Thank you. Do you follow Crypto's Realities channels, and what do you think of it? There's a lot of channels out there, very good. I know Crypto Realities. I don't know them personally like I have a relationship with some other channels, but they seem to be doing good work. I don't know much about them. There's so many out there pop up, and some show up for a year, and then some kind of go away, and some are really huge into podcasting, and then their YouTube channel doesn't really do much. So, okay. Ryan Tremblay, hey Ryan. Wow, $5, man. Thank you for, you don't have to donate. I really appreciate it, man. That's very cool. Any recent Genosqua encounters? Have you ever covered this subject on a, we really like to cover this subject on our podcast, but it seems to be a shortage of material. I could probably do a podcast or a feature length type thing about the Genosqua because there's a lot to unpack there just in the mythology. Their sightings are rare, and to be honest, if you saw a Genosqua going through the woods in typical fleeting fashion, you'd probably just assume it was a regular Bigfoot. It wasn't until you got close enough and you saw teeth and claws and maybe carrying off a bear or carrying off a human or had a very aggressive encounter. And I think they're intrinsically linked to the Wendigo type Bigfoot with the big claws. Although I think the Genosqua is kind of the more southern East Coast, Midwest variety of a carnivorous Bigfoot, where the Wendigo is very subalpine in the woods. Sorry for getting strange noise from this. Subalpine woods in the snow kind of a thing, like polar bear, grizzly bear. Think like that. But yeah, I think we could probably do a whole show on the Genosqua. There's the whole thing about the stone giants and rolling in pitch and mud and then covering themselves in rocks. So when the Native Americans would shoot at them, their stone arrowheads would bounce off. But then once the white man showed up with their guns, their armor was ineffective. But pretty much they were the cannibal stone giants, and they looked a lot like a Bigfoot. Not like David and Goliath type giant, but more like what you would associate a Bigfoot, but with stone cladding on them that protected them from arrows. Very fascinating. A lot to talk about there. I don't U-boat incident. Like I said, I don't know anything about it. It sounds familiar. I know like the Philadelphia project. The U-boat 84, is that the one where it like went missing and the U-boat traveled through time and then like came back here and they saw it had reported all sorts of crazy stuff where they were gone for like a couple months and then they were back like hours later. Am I wrong? Is that something else? Anyway. Hey Matt, do you think Dogman / Bigfoot, most likely pagan Satanist shapeshifters, skinwalkers, these beasts have supernatural abilities? I think people who worship demons and sacrifice obtain these powers. I think you got to do, for lack of a better term, a lot of selling of your soul to get to the ability where you could morph into something like that. But, you know, if you look about it, there's been all sorts of reports through histories of wizards, warlocks, witches being able to shapeshift, very powerful high priest of these ancient pagan type religions, getting into Satanist. And I think it's, it could very well be where a lot of the werewolf type stuff comes out. You know, they see a human transform into something versus a dog man, which seems to be some kind of a semi-natural creature out doing its thing. Yeah, I think it's possible. I think if you look at even the Native American, the skinwalkers, if you look at the Native American traditions of a skinwalker, where it's like a shaman who gets who can, through their dark powers and through their abilities and their rituals and spells, can actually shapeshift into other creatures. And I think they could take the form of a Bigfoot or a dog man or somewhere in between, where they're taking the form of a wolf, but they're somewhere between a man and a human and they walk upright. Yeah, so I think that very well could be a good question. You mean male dogmen do poop because females don't poop? At least not the human ones. Yeah, I always say that. Girls don't poop. Trust me, girls poop. Yeah, like I said, I think there's a real flesh and blood dogman, and then I think there's some kind of a spiritual copycat or a ghost or a demon taking its form. Great live. Hit the thumbs up. Thanks, everyone. Matt. Well, thank you. Do you think there's an albino Bigfoot seen in the CA deserts. I talked about it a while back, but not recently, like the famous Yucca Man reports, where it's a blondish white Bigfoot. I know, like people's hair in general, if you spend a lot of time outside, you will become blonde. And if there's generations of these creatures living out in the woods that maybe immigrated down from um, higher elevations, uh, sorry, I just can't buy the shapeshifter um, nonsense. Oh, I hear you. You know, to each his own. Do you guys want my thoughts? I'm giving you my thoughts. These aren't necessarily scientific theories or proven facts or anything. Just letting you know. It's just my opinion, man. But yeah, anyway, so like the Yucca Man and I think if you were going to be desert dweller, it would make sense that you'd be light colored instead of dark colored through evolutionary process, through being bleached out, through natural selection, through whatever means. It makes sense if you're going to live in a desert and survive and have breed and have generations that you'd probably end up being light colored. So you blend in and hide and do better in the desert. The Yucca Man, the Borrego Sandman, the Zoobies, all those reports of arid and desert, high desert, low desert region. Very fascinating that people see Bigfoot. But, you know, you find large desert mule deer and tortoises and coyotes and everything else, bears that cross the desert from one mountain to another. So it makes sense that a Sasquatch being very resourceful, through farmland. Sorry, there's cat hair floating around here. I spent all morning vacuuming. Now there's cat hair everywhere again. Anybody want two cats? I'm joking. Yeah, so I think when it comes to like they can tip over this cactus and find water, they can eat these buds and find water, they can do it this way. I think they're going to be very resourceful for calories and nutrients. And I think like most things, they're going to find a dried riverbank or a cave or an old abandoned building or whatever, or rail car and sleep there during the day and when it gets cool at night, they're going to go out and scavenge and hunt and pull open turtle shells and eat coyotes and mule deer and eat prickly pear cactus and go steal chickens and dog foods from whoever they can. So yes, as far as them being blonde, it makes sense. If they were going to live in a desert, they'd be blonde. Anyway, Doodle Squatch TM, take my money. Thank you very much for your money. I do appreciate it. Donations are always appreciated. We got a lot of donations so far today. It's amazing. You guys really don't have to do that. But it really does support me. I don't work full time. I stay home with my daughter. I'm a stay at home dad and take care of my family. And this YouTube thing is, you know, even in my best month is about like a quarter of what I made in a private sector. But I have my own business, my own fan base. I'm my own boss. I get to do what I want to do, and you guys make that possible. So thank you. And the donations are just icing on the cake, the closest I get to a bonus. So thank you very much. Thanks for answering questions. I've been watching like a year now. Thank you very much. Yeah, we think we're coming up in the next couple weeks. July 16th or 17th can be our 2-year anniversary. What about a guy who filmed a Wendigo in the snow? It's still on YouTube. Yeah, I saw that. I don't know. I'm not really completely convinced either way. I think it very well could be. Certainly fascinating. A lot of stuff comes out of Russia of that kind of thing, which makes sense they would be over there too. I saw one patty type in Vancouver Island way back in November '97. Do you know of any other sightings? Vancouver Island and a lot of the surrounding islands, there are a lot of reports of Bigfoot. I know like Tom Seawood and a lot of the researchers in the Pacific Northwest, there are reports the natives, the fishermen see Sasquatch swimming from one island to another, and certain spots freeze over or have drifts and everything else, and they can cross over from island to island. And lots of reports of Bigfoot digging up clams and cockles. It goes back into the native tribes' traditions of their Bigfoot going up and stealing clams and cockles and fish and everything else from fishermen, and reports of them swimming from island to island. Yeah, I think it's entirely possible they're on those islands, and I think it's entirely possible that they swim or somehow migrate off of those islands and move around. I think they can be excellent swimmers. I think the large body mass, if properly proportioned, they can float right and swim just like a grizzly bear or polar bears can swim. And I think the high protein food source of the ocean's got to be very important for these things, especially near the coast. Do Sasquatch beef their jerky? I don't know what you mean by beef their jerky, but I'm sure if you left some beef jerky out for Sasquatch, I hear they don't like teriyaki, but they do like peppered. Hey, late, but good to see you guys. Goodbye, Julia. Mogia Monster. Uh, I just read a story in a Colorado in the World News something or other about a man who claims to have been sexually assaulted by a Bigfoot. There's always those claims and those stories out there, and if these creatures are real and they do have very human-like urges, and especially young teenage ones that don't know any better, could a sexual assault happen? Yeah, there's been reports of them doing bad things to horses and cows and other stuff as well. So the fact that it's in the Weekly World News, I wouldn't take that as a very reliable source, but I'm sure it does happen from time to time. Why you carry a gun with you? No means no, Sasquatch. Uh, you think the missing 401 mystery is just a Bigfoot is a big enigma as Foot, of course, Foot part of the mix, enough to drive you crazy or at least drive you out of the woods. Yeah, it really gets me going out with pairs, going out armed, the whole GPS tractor, staying on trails. It definitely keeps you, you kind of that color code of awareness. You definitely stay in the yellow zone when you're out in the woods. Happy Independence Day. Thank you, Julia. My dog would eat them. Bigfoot flesh and blood, then they're open to possession. Yeah, there's another theory that Sasquatch or the Wendigos and maybe even the Gugwees and some of the very dangerous demonic, where they seem more intent on terrorizing you and then actually eating you or doing things to you, could be a demonic possession. Yeah, because they say if you're in some religions, like Catholic, that humans are the only ones with an actual soul, then maybe they're not quite human enough to have a soul, so they're an empty vessel, so they're easily possessed. That's one thing that's come around quite a bit. Hi, Aaron. Aaron Noel, good to see you. I believe skinwalkers and wendigos, but I don't believe they're the same as a Sasquatch. I completely agree. I think skinwalkers may have the ability to mimic a Bigfoot, and I think the wendigos with the emaciated deer-like hominid creature is very different from what people call the Wendigo Bigfoot, which is a carnivorous Bigfoot with teeth and claws. It's just a slang name for like a Genosqua, Sasquatch, so to speak. Same with all. I tend to believe Sasquatch are real animals. They live here, whereas Dogman are more supernatural. Yeah, there's a lot of supporting evidence. If Bigfoot is got one toe in the paranormal pool, Dogman is definitely dangling both feet in. They definitely have a lot more strange stuff going on than Bigfoot. Uh, uh, just got on, found your channel, seem to have a good channel, lots of stuff, keep it up. I try. I know some channels are great and some aren't, or some videos are great and some aren't. Yeah, sexually assaulted by Bigfoot like Peter Kane. Yeah, it's amazing when he was going through his height of popularity a few months back when he had his actually, I give him credit. That was a very realistic looking body that he had and a very realistic looking, story. And he said it so straight faced that a lot of people really fell for his stuff and thought that he was really telling the truth, that he shot a Bigfoot and all this other stuff. And yeah, and it was. I knew what it was. I knew that it was kind of as a farce. It was kind of tongue in cheek. And hold on a second here. Hold on a second. Sorry, I had to move that. It's about to fall off the table. My daughter left her cup right on the edge of the table. So yeah, the Peter Kane thing, I kind of knew it from the beginning as a farce. He did a really good job, and he really played it up. And I think he got a lot of YouTube views. And very few people are exceptional. Peter Kane. Hey, Brown. Good to see you. I think there's a lot of gullible people. Most people are good and honest. Most people are gullible, and I think very few people are exceptional. Very few people are lie detectors. It's very hard to be exceptional, and it's very hard to be great, and it's very hard to do your best all the time, and it's very hard to push yourself. So I think there's a certain percentage of population that wants to believe or doesn't know that he's joking or doesn't get the nuance of it, or just blind followers. Matt Squatch, hey baby. Hey babe. Hey Brown, hope you're doing good. Hope you're having a good 4th of July. Yeah, so Peter Kane, I thought all this stuff was hilarious and watched a little bit of it, and he probably made a shit ton of money with all the YouTube views. Let's see, we got to go back here a little ways. 45 ACP Black Talon. No means no, Sasquatch. Exactly. Have you come across lizard people stories in the Southwest? Yes, we have them. We even have them here in Anaheim Hills in different areas where people go out hiking and they see this like large, literally man with the scales all over him and a lizard face run around. Like I said, I think you're getting into, I think those are aliens. And I think there's underground bases and things. Um, so yeah, people see them all the time down here. Um, have you seen or interviewed with a guy claimed that said that the Dogman are an alien race and the government higher ups have been brought to them in another place? I wouldn't discount that. I don't think they're an alien. Could they be in? Could they be alien? Technically, yes. Could they more than likely be some kind of genetic hybrid or some kind of an alien manipulation? Some otherworldly, interdimensional, ancient civilization, mankind from a very distant future, playing time travel tricks. Who knows? Whatever your demonic entities, whatever your definition of alien is. But I think there's some kind of an abomination, some kind of a creation from long ago. He is a nut. Yeah, I'm kind of nuts, but you kind of got to be to get into this stuff. And there's more truth here than you think. I think you're probably referring to Peter Kane as a nuts. Any good Dogman photos? You find a few on the internet that look pretty good now and then, but it's hard to tell, and a lot of them have been debunked. I think there's very rare to get good Bigfoot photos. I think it's incredibly rare to get good Dogman photos. And there's so many good movies out there too that do screenshots and re-editing and everything else like that. So yeah, I'm sure they're out there, but I have seen very few and far between for convincing Dogman footage. But I have heard a lot of encounters and have heard a lot of people present me with the large tracks and stories and everything else. You've been posting a lot more videos lately. I'm not sure how you make the time. I wish I knew your secret. I just do it. You know, my daughter's taking a nap. My wife is out of the house. I'm not driving my family member to the doctor. I just, like today, wife and daughter taking a nap. I haven't done a live stream in a while, and I'm like, I'm just going to do it. As much as I want to watch YouTube videos or go to the store, or it's 4th of July, I guess everything's closed, or go get the car washed, or just sit and relax, you push yourself. And I'm going to try to do that a lot more. The last couple weeks, the last couple months have just been really hard for me to get anything out. Peter Kane is a comedian and one of my favorite channels. I love his sense of humor. That's kind of how I view it. Hey, only in America, baby. Have you heard about the creature called the hide behind? No matter how much you try to see it, it can contort its body to hide behind the thinnest trees. Yeah, I have heard about that. Isn't that like a creepypasta? Isn't that creepypasta? I have heard about that. It kind of makes you think about Bigfoot too. They just have this, 4-foot wide shoulders, but yet they can hide in a forest of thin trees. Very interesting. I don't know if it's a real creature, or I think when you talk about a hide behind, I think you're talking about a ghost, or not a ghost, but a spirit or a demonic entity. Hey Brown, he says, hey Matt Squatch, did you feel the earthquake? Yes, I did, Brown. It wasn't too bad, just a few things shaking, and it was like, oh, okay, earthquake. Percentage certainly you believe, what percentage of certainty do you believe these things exist? I'm 100% certain Bigfoot exists. I'm about 99% sure Dogman exists. Loch Ness Monster, lake creatures, I'm probably 70 or 80%. I'm about 100% convinced also that sea monsters exist, just out of pure, we don't know that much about the ocean and strange shit washes up all the time. Anyway, so yeah, high probability of a lot of these creatures existing at one point or another. It was a good sized earthquake. Yeah, it was pretty good. We haven't had earthquakes in a long time. I mean, I know we have them all the time, and they're little ones, and sometimes you feel them, sometimes you don't. But that was the first, moderate sized one we'd had in a long time. Like my wife said, it's good. Get them all out in small ones. We don't have a big giant one. Okay, hold on a second. Aliens are demons. It's a very common theory. Dixie Crypto. Peter Kane is a comedian and love a sense of humor. Yeah, it's good to see you on here, Dixie. You guys are awesome. I think I lived right around the corner from one of the sightings. Cool. Hey, man, you're a cool, down to earth guy. I've been listening to you for a while. Eating dinner and a long day at work. Bigfoot and Dogman community is open minded. Greetings from Switzerland. Well, howdy to you too in Switzerland. The Olympic project is already a GPS on one for I believe like 7 months. Huh. Well, Hello, Mr. Sasquatch. I'd like to put this big thing around your neck. It's a GPS tracker. We want to see where you're going. It's like, yeah, we hear STDs are very popular with Bigfoots. Can you see if you can get the Bigfoot to wear the condom? No, I couldn't get him to wear the condom. It's like that. I can't imagine them actually putting her. Not, maybe they did. I don't really follow those guys. I know those guys. I've heard of them, but I don't really follow their work. But yeah, they put a GPS tracker on a Sasquatch. I mean, good luck. And I'm not saying they're full of shit. I just have a hard time believing it. So there's a big difference there. Check them out. They have a whole profile on it. Yeah, I'm going to have to check them out. Like I said, I'm really far behind. There's so many channels, so many research groups, and so many people doing good work. Like the Olympic Project, I've heard good things about those guys. I've seen them at conferences. So I guess I can't doubt them when they say they put a tracker on a Bigfoot or they left a tracker out and maybe they picked it up not knowing what it is and they can see the tracker moving around and maybe that's how they tracked them. But I mean, tranquilizing one or voluntarily getting one to carry a tractor, I find that hard to believe. We're at 80 minutes here. We'll probably go another 10 minutes and hang it up. If anybody has, it was about the size of a walnut. Still, how are you going to get him to carry it? A walnut's like a dingleberry to a Sasquatch. Anyway, not doubting him. I just need to know more before I give a definitive creature. Kind of hesitant to believe that all cryptids are demons. I'm sure they have their place. Just haven't discovered it. Yeah, like I said, I think Bigfoot's very much on the side of a natural creature versus Dogman. I think you're getting off into something that's a lot more demonic, so to speak. I think there's a spectrum here as opposed to like an on and off. They're demons, they're not kind of a thing. What else do we got? North American Wood Ape Conservancy, not the Olympic Project. Okay, because I say Olympic Project is Derek Randles and those guys. The North American Wood Ape Conservancy, I've heard of them, seen their work. Okay, North American Wood Ape Conservancy, those guys. There's all these different clans and groups and everything else. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Now you've got me intrigued. If anybody on here or knows those guys, have them get a hold of me, mattsquatchpresents@gmail.com. Maybe I can plan a trip out later this year to go visit them or talk with them or do a live show or a chat. By the way, anybody ever wants me on a podcast or something, I can't always make it, but most of the time I can. Willing to talk about anything paranormal, not just Bigfoot. It's always been my dream to be on Joe Rogan or Coast to Coast AM or any of the big name shows, especially Coast to Coast. Every now and then I hear a Bigfoot guy on there who's just terrible, just complete out there, and I'm like, I can do a better job than that. And that's not me bragging, that's just me saying I can do a better job. I think there's a lot better speakers and people a lot more knowledgeable than me, even a lot of them. But I hear some of the guests they have on Coast to Coast sometimes. Some of them are great, and some of them are just so long-winded and terrible and boring, and they aren't even making sense or bringing it into context of a normal human being can understand it. Yet they're a guest repeatedly. And some of the guests are really great. So I'd love to be on Coast to Coast if anybody has any connections. Coast to Coast has gone downhill. Yeah, I don't listen consistently. 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008 was my heyday when Art Bell would still host sometimes. George Norrie. It was really good back then. I'm not really up that late, to be honest. So yeah, when I do get a chance to listen Coast to Coast, they still put out some good episodes. The problem is it'll be a 2-hour interview, and especially when you find like the Coast to Coast AM YouTube channel, they post their show. 2.5, 3-hour interview, and by the time they take all the commercials out, it's a 40-minute show, and they've gone so over the top with their advertising that it's just so frustrating because it's like 15 minutes of advertising, 10 minutes of talk, 5 minutes of advertising, 15 minutes, and they have David Wilcox and Corey Good on Coast to Coast. Yeah, they have those guys on there, and I know they're a very controversial subject in the UFO world, but we won't get into that. Coast to Coast makes Bigfoot people sound nuts. They do that on purpose. They very well could be. It could be part of a disinformation campaign. That woman on Coast to Coast who claimed to have lived with one in a cave in the 70s. I listen to everybody. You can form your own personal opinions, but yeah, she's been around a long time where she talked about she lived with them and the mind speak and all that other kind of stuff. I think I hear my daughter getting up. I'm probably being too noisy. Anyway, Dixie Krypton. Got to dig into some ribs. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Happy Independence Day, Dixie. Go enjoy those ribs. Ground Zero is now the new Coast to Coast. Yes, I've heard a few Ground Zeros. Ground Zero is good. Yeah, there's so many good podcasts out there. What's what's cool about podcasts is you can get a couple $100 worth of equipment and a Skype account or Hangouts, and you can be the next Coast to Coast. It's really revolutionized it. And it's funny because you think Coast to Coast would have to step up their game to stay competitive, when I don't think that's always the case. I still have a lot of respect for the show. Shh, SAMR. Yeah. Um, but yeah, anyway. All right, well, I'm going to wrap this up, folks. Hey, Matt, what are your thoughts on trying to place poison food bait for Dogman or Bigfoot? I don't want to poison one, because how do you know what's going to kill one versus just make it sick and then figure out it was you? Or you make one sick and it gets torn apart, or some other innocent creature like bears or coyotes or wolves or raccoons or something eat that poison. I don't recommend trying to poison them at all. Uh, Spaced Out Radio is very good. Spaced Out is good. I've heard them. Matt, what do you have you listened to bedtime stories? No, I have heard of them, but I don't really listen to them. There's so many of them out there. In Norway, we have legends about mountain trolls. Do you think that's a what do you think these creatures? I think they do have Bigfoots, and that's probably is helping some of the um, stories of mountain trolls. But I think it's something else completely. I think they're maybe related to Sasquatch and some of the giant species, but I think it's its own separate thing. Um, Matt Johnson from Oregon. I know who he is, but I haven't really listened to him too much. Thanks, Matt. Enjoyed the chat. All right, guys, I'm gonna get going. You guys have a happy Independence Day. Hey, Matt Squatch, I'll be in Bluff Creek on Monday. Oh, good job, Brown. Let me know if you find anything. So you guys have a safe Independence Day. You guys stay out there and stay safe in the woods, folks. Thanks.